Hi, so this is the third video in the series on manipulating decimals, and it's just to give you an example of where when we're given a piece of information in an exam or in a question, we can use that piece of information and move the decimal point in order to answer some questions. Okay, so let me give you an example of that. With this particular question, we're given 127 times 84 equals 10,668. Okay, yes it is. You can check that on the calculator or do some long multiplication. It should give you 10,668. Okay, and you've been given three questions, and the three questions are: what is 1270 times 84? Also, what is 0.127 times 8.4? And also, what is 10,668 divided by 1.27? What does that equal? Okay, like the previous video really, I think sometimes it's a lot better to have a rough indication of the answer in your mind before you actually write down the numbers. You can check them by moving the decimal point, certainly, because that's, if we look at this particular question, what's happened is that 127 times 84, both of the decimal points are at the end of these numbers, as they are at the end of this number. But what's happened is that we've got an extra zero here, so the decimal point has moved across one. What that means is I'm going to put the answer in exactly the same way, 10,668, but I'm going to add another zero on the end of it. So in order to answer this question, it would be 106,680. Okay, however, as the previous video, I would always have it in my mind that there is a very rough and ready estimate or guess about this. So if I look at that, I've got 1270, and I'm going to multiply that by 100. Okay, well, if I multiply it by 100, all I simply do is I add two zeros at the end of it. So I would have it in my mind that the answer is going to be 5 digits long. It's going to be about 100, 120,000, something like that. And the answer here is 106,680. So it's not a very accurate estimate, but nevertheless it gives me an indication of how many decimal places the number would have. And I think if you get into this idea of doing that, it does make the more difficult ones a little bit easier, because what we've got here is I've got 0.127 and I'm going to multiply it by 10, which is near enough to 8.4. Well, if I multiply it by 10, I'm going to move the decimal point. So I would expect my answer to be about 1.27, roundabout. And actually, it's pretty close at 1.0668. And that would be the answer on this second question. Now, I say pretty close. It's not that close, but it's a very good idea and very, very quick and rough estimate to do something like this. Similarly with this one, I've got 10,668. 668. Well, it's divided by 1, isn't it? It's actually about 1 1/4. But divided by 1 is perfectly fine. So I know my answer is going to be about 10,000. Well, actually it's not. It's going to be 8,400, but it's as close as I can get it to 10,000. Now, I appreciate this isn't very mathematical, but it is quite a good way of doing it, to have this very rough idea of what you're doing when you answer these questions, and hopefully you should find them a little bit easier. There's one more example in the next video on this particular playlist. I hope it's helpful to you. Please do subscribe to the site, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next video.